Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do another Tip Tuesday series, and I'm going to apologize. I have a little bit of a cold, so my voice probably sounds a little goofy, but I'm going to do my best to get through this because next week is 4th of July, and so I'm going to be taking the week off. So I want to get up a video for you for this week. So today we're going to just talk about teacher organization and your homeschool room. Now I'm going to do a separate video on our homeschool room and take you on a tour to show you how it's set up and what we have in there and everything. But I did just want to do a quick introduction on getting all of your teachers' materials like kind of organized and set up so that you can get ready for the start of the year. Alright, so I get a lot of questions on our homeschool room, and I just want to start off by saying that you don't have to have an actual homeschool room. I took over what would be like the study in our house and put all of our school desks and bookshelves and all that kind of thing in there, and I'm really thankful that we have that space. I actually do like having a specific kind of designated school space in our house because, especially while my kids are a little bit younger, I think it just kind of makes it easier. It's almost like when you go to work, it's easier to work versus trying to work from home because there's so many distractions. So having a like a dedicated homeschool room kind of works out for us because we go in there and we kind of focus and we do school, and that's sort of like what we do in that room. Now I will say that as my students are starting to get a little bit older, they actually kind of prefer to be able to go off and have some like more quiet, private area to do their school. And so a lot of times, one of them will go into the living room to do something. My oldest one likes to do it up in her bedroom, and she is old enough and I trust her. She goes up there and she actually does her work and gets things done. She just likes to have a little bit more, private space and quiet time to be able to do that. I think when they're smaller, it's a little bit easier to have some sort of area to keep them kind of contained and focused. But again, that's totally up to you. I like having a homeschool room. However, I have a lot of friends who do homeschool in their kitchen and they love it. I have friends who do it in the living room and they love it. It really kind of depends. I don't want you to think that you have to have a specific homeschool space to be able to homeschool. You can really homeschool anywhere in your home that kind of works out for you. So just find an area that makes sense. Obviously your kids are going to need a little bit of space to do work, so if that's like at the kitchen table or somewhere in your living room or the dining room is always a great option. They just might need some space to, open up a book and have like, a space where they can be writing and working. Another thing that we do a lot is we'll grab clipboards and they can go and sit on the couch, or sometimes we go out on the trampoline, sometimes we go to the library, and so you can kind of just make it work for whatever you have, available in your situation. So I know a lot of people have smaller homes and they just don't have the space to have like a dedicated homeschool room, and you don't have to. You can absolutely do a smaller space kind of homeschooling thing. When we very first started out, I just took a couple of shelves in my kitchen cabinets, and I just put my teacher's manuals in there, and then each of my kids had like kind of a little like accordion file box, and I would just fill their work in that, and then they could just pull out their little box each day, and that actually works out really well. It's a great solution for smaller spaces as well. So, and also makes your homeschooling a little bit more mobile to do things that way. If each child has like a little maybe accordion file folder and you can put their work in there, they can grab a couple books, you can head to the library or to a park and do school that way. Or if you're, traveling a lot or anything like that, that makes your homeschooling a lot more portable. The other thing that can make it more portable is doing things online via, like through a tablet or a computer if you can get internet access and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different options on how to set up your homeschool room. So I just want to encourage you to do whatever works best for your family. Don't compare your room or your area to other people or what you have or don't have. Just find something that works for you. Homeschooling is super flexible and you can really make it work with like a variety of different spaces. So spacing is the kind of the first thing. I do want to touch a little bit on like teacher's manuals and all of that because there are, some books and things like that that kind of can store up. So as far as the teacher's manuals go, I do like to keep my teacher's manuals kind of separate from my students' workbooks, and I just have them on my little IKEA shelf, in my schoolroom, but you could also, like I said, do it in a kitchen cabinet or keep them in like a rolling file drawer, whatever works for you. But I do keep them kind of by grade, and all my teacher's manuals are together so that way if one of my students is having a problem or if I need to teach them or they have a question or anything like that, I know exactly where that teacher's manual is. I can run and grab it, look up the answer key or whatever the lesson or whatever I need to do to get that out. It just makes it really easy and organized for me to try and keep them, like organized by grade, and that way I know how to find them quickly. All right, so another tip that I have for you is in regards to just storage space in general. Now for years, most of you know we have 4 kids. For years, I was keeping all of their work every year, and I would put them in one of those really cool banker's boxes, and I put their grade on there, and I just was kind of filling them up. Well, those filled up really, really quickly. And in our state, we are not required to keep all of that work. And if you think about it, if your child was going to a regular, traditional school setting, you probably wouldn't keep every single worksheet that they turned in. So what I have since decided to do, and again, you're going to want to just verify this with your state requirements on what kind of information you have to keep in the store, but I get rid of all of their excess like worksheets and all that kind of thing at the end of the year, because I figure, what are the chances we're going to go back and look through that? I do keep certain things for specific reasons as far as requirements for our state, and I'll go into that in just a little bit. But I just wanted to encourage you as far as making some sort of large storage space in your basement or whatever. You don't really need to do that. So I was doing that for a long time, and it was taking up way too much space. We moved, and we also refinished our basement, and so I had precious kind of space in my basement for storage. And so we just made the decision at the end of the year, we just take all that schoolwork and we just recycle it, and then we keep anything that's special to us, like art projects or things like that, and they each have their own box for that kind of stuff, but we get rid of all of the extra stuff. So as far as storage space in my basement goes now, I don't really need that much space. One thing else I want to mention are supplies. So everybody, of course, needs supplies, and I'll cover this a little bit better in my students' supply list, but I also have supplies. So for the teacher, I have like dry erase markers. I always keep a ton of fresh pencils, extra scissors, because I don't know about you, but my kids tend to lose scissors like immediately, and every year I go buy everybody a new pair of scissors, and they all promise to keep them in their drawers, and then 2 days in, it's like we can't find the scissors. So I keep extra scissors in my drawer. I keep tape for my wall, and I use that Mavalus tape, and I'll link that below, but it doesn't take off the paint off your walls, and it makes it really easy to hang up posters and things like that. I also keep staples, extra Scotch tape, glue sticks, Sharpies, and just extra pins, sticky notes, and things like that all get kept in my teacher's supply drawer. The kids aren't really allowed to touch that. They kind of need to ask if they need anything out of there, and that's my way of kind of keeping extra supplies so we don't run out, and just kind of keeping everything organized. All right, some other things that you're going to maybe want to consider when figuring out how to organize for your homeschool are all of the little games and manipulatives and counters and things like that, especially if you have younger children. So we like to do that in plastic storage boxes, and I'll put a picture right here of what we use. We have some from the Container Store, and I have a couple of sizes. Some of them are the 4x6 photo boxes, and I use those for smaller puzzle pieces, or like the little pom-pom counters or beads or things like that. The other one that I like to use are the 8x10 boxes, and they're great for filling in things like alphabet tiles or larger puzzles, or buttons or counting pieces, games, things like that. So I like to keep them all in these little containers. It makes everything nice and organized and easy to grab, and easy to put away as well. So that's something to take into consideration. Also, if you're homeschooling, books are going to kind of become a large part of your life. And so as far as books and even our curriculum goes, I try and keep on our shelves what we're currently using only. If there's other fun reading books and stuff, we have a separate area in our basement where we have bookshelves, and the kids can go and find books and that kind of thing. But what I keep in my homeschool room is typically just what we're using that year for homeschooling. And that's just because I like to try and keep the clutter out of there. Homeschooling can get kind of crazy anyways. You have a lot of things going on, and so as far as keeping a lot of stuff in our room, I try not to do that, and it's really going to depend on your space as to how much how much you can store there and that kind of thing. As far as books go, I kind of like to sort them. There's lots of ways to sort them, but I kind of like to sort them by subject, and then I also within that sort them by grade. So if we have science books, I'll sort them all on a science shelf or something, and then they're also sorted by grade. That way it's easy for my kids to go and find their particular books that are associated with their studies or whatever. It's also easy for me to find them as well. And that's how I store our curriculum that we're not using in our basement as well. And I'll do kind of a long-term storage video, and I have a post on my blog as well. But as far as keeping curriculum that we're not using, I don't keep that in our homeschool room right now. I keep it in my basement, and I keep it in boxes. And I do the same thing. I have like a science box, a math box, and whatnot. And then I keep those kind of organized by grade. That way it's really easy for me when I'm trying to pick our curriculum for the next year to go down and see what I have. Do I have science for this grade? Okay, great. I don't have to go buy that or whatever. So it makes it really easy for me. You can store obviously any way that you want. You can do it by, keep all one grade together. You can do it by subject. You can, however works best for you. That's just how we do it. Another thing to consider is your wall space. Now, like I said, you can homeschool any way that you like. However, we do find it really helpful to have a whiteboard. We use our whiteboard all the time. I also use my wall space for posters and wall maps and things like that. So that's just something to take into consideration when you're thinking about, an area and where you're going to homeschool. It's really nice, especially if you're doing like a geography curriculum, where you're needing to map out areas and things like that, to be able to have like a space like that where your kids can easily go and locate things. And maybe, this year we pinned flags everywhere we went for Expedition Earth and things like that. So whiteboard, I would say, is kind of essential. I mean, you obviously, you don't have to have one, but we really have used over the last 9 or 10 years of homeschooling, we use our whiteboard all the time. So that's just something to take into consideration. One other thing you might want to think about too is like a little bit of a work area for you, the teacher. Now, obviously your kids are going to need an area, and that can kind of be more mobile or however you want to set that up. But as a teacher, you're also going to need a space to kind of just keep all of your stuff, sheets that needed to be graded, things like that. And so I find it really helpful to have a little desk. I have one off to the side of my kids' desk in our homeschool room. And there I have my computer, and, I already mentioned what's in my drawer and things like that. And that's just everybody, when they're done working, they turn their stuff into me on my desk. That way I'm not like having to search the homeschool room for it. They're responsible for turning their work in, not, oh, I left it in the living room or I left it in the kitchen or whatever. So I just find it really helpful to kind of have an area for me, as the teacher as well. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just something to take into consideration. Another thing you're going to want to think about is technology. Now, in this day and age, obviously most of you probably already have some kind of a tablet or a phone or a computer, that's taking part of your school. So we do a little bit of our school online, not a lot of it, but some. I like to have my kids learning how to use a computer. We do typing so that they're, learning that skill as well. So if you do need to add, or you want to add in technology into your homeschooling, just take that into consideration as well. You might want to have like an open space in your kitchen where you can have a computer that's easily accessible to the kids, and they can get on there and do whatever they need to do and that kind of thing. But it's also easy for you to monitor as well. Also, if you have tablets or anything like that, sometimes, and a lot of times actually now, you can get textbooks downloaded on your tablet and things like that, which can really save in space as well. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about as far as teacher organization goes is keeping some kind of records. So in our state, we're required to basically just keep our attendance and our hours each year, and then I do have to do testing on all odd years starting in grade 3 all the way through grade 11. So I like to keep all that information in binders, and I usually just buy one of these, just any simple kind of a binder. I usually buy the smallest ones you can. I think they're 1/2 inch binders. And then inside of there, I actually do keep our receipts for any homeschool curriculum or anything I purchased. I keep a record of, our hours. I keep our attendance in there. And then I also keep, I don't have to do this, but I also do keep a copy of our teacher, of my lesson plans. So either I'll take all of the kids' lesson plans at the end of the year and just stick it in there, or I'll just print out kind of a master copy of our daily lesson plans and stick it in there, just as kind of a means of proof of like what we, set out to accomplish that year. If there's anything else, like we do options programs, and so they get report cards from there and, some other things from that, so I'll keep that in there. Just any kind of, information from the school year. Sometimes if we do sports, and there's documentation that goes with that, I'll keep that in that binder as well. Basically, just you want to keep anything that's required by your state as far as records go in like an easy to find location. You don't have to put it in binders, maybe like a tabbed file folder or something like that. Just whatever works for you, but just something that you can kind of, have easy access to all of those records and that kind of things. So those are my basic tips on teacher organization for your homeschool room. I hope that helps you. I'll do a more in-depth tour of our homeschool room coming soon. If you have any ideas for another Tip Tuesday or any questions, feel free to email me at erica@confessionsofahomeschooler.com and I will do my best to get back with you. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.